Okay, welcome everybody for the meeting of May 27th, 2024 concerning the Cross Creek Municipal Drain Engineering Report. So if we can get the meeting started, please.
Be it resolved that the present meeting be opened, moved by
Oui.
Monsieur Fogg and Madame Drolet.
Tous d'accord? Okay, we're good.
Perfect.
Okay. And
So there's no changes or additions to the agenda.
c'est ça, tout est beau.
So,
Pas de conflit d'intérêt. Okay.
yep. So be it resolved that the agenda be accepted, including the modifications made forthwith as applicable. I've moved by Mr. Stewart, supported by Mr.
Mainville. OK. À ce moment-là, je peux lui céder la parole?
Oui.
OK, you guys can go right ahead. Yeah. Is your mics on just to make sure like the green button is nice and there we go?
Perfect, thank you.
Okay, so thank you for the opportunity. This meeting or this presentation is for the Cross Creek Municipal Drain meeting to consider the engineer's report. I apologize, I do only speak English.
No
You're
apologies
welcome
needed.
to ask any questions in French through Eric. We have a fairly good working relationship with him and trust that he will say the correct thing. So.
He won't throw you under the bus.
Too many. So this is the location. This is the Cross Creek, just before it enters the top end of the Mill Creek drain. This is one of the last culverts on the downstream. The original alignment for this location had two 3-meter diameter culverts that formed the main drain. At some point subsequent to 1983, there was a bypass culvert put in on the straight line alignment, which is now the main line alignment. But that culvert was only a 4-foot diameter, so like a 1200. It's still intended to have water bypass and go through the two main 3-meter diameter culverts. But with some flows going through the 1200, base flows going through the 1200 millimeter diameter culvert on the straight line. The existing report for the Cross Creek Municipal Drain is the major improvements of the Cross Creek Municipal Drain, Township of Caledonia, including West Hawkesbury and Longueuil. This was completed by Desjardins and LaSalle's Engineering in 1983. Robinson Consultants was appointed under Section 78.5 and OREG 500/21. So these are new provisions within the last couple of years in the Drainage Act that allow for what's called a minor improvement. This process was chosen because it is the fastest and most direct and probably the cheapest methodology to proceed. And ultimately, the rail authority would be assessed directly either way, because it was originally a rail authority in 1983, and it's now owned by the Prescott and Russell Recreational Trail Authority. So while the landowners have changed, the assessment process would not have. So either way, they would have ended up paying the full cost. So the cheaper methodology was chosen that allowed them to do that. So an on-site meeting of the affected landowners and concerned parties was held on November 23rd, 2022. Ultimately, it was decided to complete the work as emergency work under the provisions of the Drainage Act. That was initiated by the municipality on a letter dated December 21st, 2022. The proposed sizing of the culvert was provided by Robinson Consultants in support of the emergency work, and the construction was completed in February 2023. So that is a little bit of a step out from the process. Normally we'd be having this meeting and the engineer's report, and then following third reading of the bylaw for this, it would ultimately go to construction. So it has already been constructed under emergency work. The original 1200 millimeter diameter CSP was replaced with a 3000 millimeter diameter CSP. A rock check dam weir was placed between the existing 2950 diameter CSP overflow culverts. That rock check dam between the two, because there was originally two 3 meter or 2950 culverts there on that original alignment, the capacity has to remain somewhat similar, so that rock check dam keeps flow between one of the original culverts and the newly increased in size secondary culvert, which now forms the mainline culvert. A quick plan, probably a little difficult to see on the presentation, but that's the replacement of the culvert and showing the rock check dam that goes between the two overflow culverts, which are over in this area, and this now becomes the main line with the replacement of the 1200 millimeter diameter CSP with one 3000 millimeter diameter. So the picture on the right is the original culvert, a concrete end wall, a very small 1200 millimeter diameter culvert that was meant to take the base flow, and then flows would, if they got high enough beyond the base flow, would ultimately make it up to the original 1983 alignment. The culvert itself ultimately collapsed. In the picture on the left, you can see that it's torn away from the concrete end wall, dropped below that, and there were, oh, lost the presentation there. Oh, it's back. Perfect. Oh. Anybody have the technical difficulties soundtrack? Following completion of the work, Robinson Consultants is required to prepare a report for the improvements as completed under Section 78.5 and OREG 521. So I say following the completion, that's because it was done under the emergency work processes. And that final report was submitted to Council on January 31st of 2024. Based on the drainage engineer's requirements or review of the requirements under OREG 500-2021, which again is the minor improvements, all the conditions for a minor improvement project were met, and that includes that the work is completed on an individual property, that all costs associated with the work will be paid either by the proponent or the municipality, that the construction did not require access to neighboring properties, that no modification of the assessment schedules was required to complete the work, that the activity does not change the existing drainage capacity or erosion capacity. And again, that's why one of the reasons why the rock check dam was placed between the two existing culverts, to ensure that capacity remained in general conformance with the original. And then the activity is not considered an enclosure, and that the activity does not take place in a wetland. So all those conditions were met. All costs associated with the engineer's report and associated work as completed in February 2023 under the emergency work designation are to be assessed to the proponent lands, which is the Prescott and Russell Trail. As constructed, the total costs are as follows. So the construction was $141,530. The engineering to date stands at $14,907. There would be a little bit of extra costs for this meeting, and fairly minimal cost for this meeting, but if there's anything substantial beyond this, they would also add to the costs there. Other, including permits, which was the SNCA permit, cost $2,050. The total of the emergency work as completed to date is $158,487.66. Future maintenance and repair of the Cross Creek Municipal Drain shall be the responsibility of the Township of La Nation. Individual owners are responsible for periodic inspection of the drain and reporting of maintenance problems to the township. The cost of future maintenance is to be assessed in the same proportion as the schedule of assessment for future maintenance, which are included in the original report. Following the submission of the engineer's report to council, council holds a meeting to consider. That's this meeting, and welcome to the meeting. At the meeting to consider, council has three options. If changes to the report are necessary, council directs the engineer to modify and resubmit. If the project no longer meets the criteria for a minor improvement, council notifies the property owner and gives the option to request the work under Section 78, which is a major improvement, or council approves the project and passes a provisional bylaw to adopt the engineer's report. Most of these items have been superseded by actually proceeding with the emergency work. So the work's already been done. It's difficult to go back on it now. Once council approves the report, the municipality must send the provisional bylaw and notice to the landowner and OMAFRA. After a 10-day appeal process, so this report can be appealed. If there are no appeals to the municipality can formally adopt the bylaw, which is give it third reading. So first and second reading would come at this meeting. Third reading comes up at any point after the 10-day appeal process has expired. And that is the end of my presentation, but I do leave it open for questions if anybody has them.
Yeah, I remember when I went to see this, actually it was myself and Tim here, on the other side of the road, as soon as it got through, it pooled, the water ended up pooling there. Did it cause more trouble on that side as the flow was, you know, the retention of the water was?
Between the road and that culvert?
Yeah.
I think
Did it cause
we
it,
shifted
like-
it over, so it floods the west side of that property instead of going straight to the house. The last couple of years, we didn't see much of an issue closer to the house, and even the landowner built a little berm around his septic system.
Okay.
The goal was to move away from the house as much as possible.
Right, as soon as you cross the street though, because I remember that's where it ended up pooling because the flow ended up on, like, is that still an issue? Like, did we just take the problem and just move it downstream? That's my question.
Well, it was already flooding on the south side of the road plus that area. But even if it stays within that area, it goes more west of the drain and property of the house. The owner at that time, we told him it doesn't prevent as much, but there's the capacity pushes it away and flows through the straight line instead of just staying around and being blocked because that 4-footer was collapsed.
Right.
So we shifted more west and further from the residents.
The drains themselves are typically only designed for what's called a 2-year storm, so they flood quite frequently. So you will see ponding there occasionally, and it's not meant to improve the standard there. So there would be, so that there would be no flooding ever that you would see.
Right, it's just, my concern was just,
yeah.
I mean, when to fix this problem, just to cause something downstream, and that's where I'm just wanting to know that the landowners there are aware of that kind of stuff.
Yeah, and downstream, the Mill Creek is being constructed also, and by the time we get to the top end, we might be looking at a little, there's a little section just past the cycling trail and the second culvert that we could break rock and drop it fairly fast.
Right.
So we could take water a little quicker from that area.
Right,
So
okay.
it would help that section, but we want to make sure that Mill Creek is completed before right up to
Okay.
that point.
D'autres questions concernant le... Now, I know, like, you sit on the trail,
Yeah, we got it.
right, oh, there he is, okay. So, as far as like financially with the impact for you guys, are you prepared for, like, I know this has been lingering for a while, are you guys prepared to absorb the costs on that?
You have to go talk there.
I would rather, so the public would be able to hear you for sure.
Mr. Mayor, and councilors of the nation, thank you. Thank you, Robinson and Eric, to have done the work. As far as this cost, this been une...
Ouais, tu peux parler en français.
Ouais.
Oh.
J'ai pas plus de mots. Been a thorn in the Achilles heel. Yes, I know that this came as an emergency act, and there was no really debating. It had to be done, and so on. As far as the cost, my colleague Marjorie is on the committee, and she's there with the other councillors to assess and ensure that we have good financial stewardship. And she is as much aware as me that we don't even have that kind of capital influx to even be close to support it. So I don't know what to say besides being frank and transparent and say the truth to come up to something constructive. However, this is the matter right now. We've been owning the recreational as the United Counties didn't want to pursue into buying it from VRL. They have done initial assessment with their public works that there was like over $4 million of millions of dollars. I think it was 4 at least, if it's not 10, of repairs to do. So that's been pre-existing before the ownership in December 2021. Now that this is what I'm used to do, my colleague Alain is aware that when there is drainage work, usually it's shared by the watershed. However, I was informed that when this is a particular infrastructure on a road or a path, I guess, it's meant by the landowners. So that all to be said that we're not sure how we will be able to support this unless we have a windfall. Since December 21, we've been doing a lot of things to move forward to try to create some recurrent and generate revenue and have a recurrent source of funds. I think we're coming there, but not close to those numbers for the moment. So I'm not sure what to plead or offer, not offer, but to express if it's something that's been known for a while. Is there a cost sharing that can be done with the United Counties or the watershed? I'm not sure, but it's just to point out that our financials are public, and they're going to be disclosed on Wednesday night from a mission statement. So it's a chartered accountant that discloses our funds, our financials. So, and it will be seen that there's not even a reserve or close to that to support it. So.
Encore des questions concernant ça? Any questions concerning this?
Yeah.
Yep.
Je m'excuse du délai. Je suis directeur général du Sentier récréatif Presque Rosso.
C'est moi. Juste accrocher les micros.
Bonjour, je me présente. Éric Collard du Sentier récréatif Presque Rosso. Je suis le directeur général. Puis j'ai accès au compte bancaire. Puis je peux vous dire que il n'y a pas vraiment de choses qu'on peut faire pour payer pour la facture. C'est sûr qu'on a travaillé avec M. Leroux pour faire les travaux d'urgence, mais c'est sûr que si on paye une facture de cette magnitude, ça c'est comme la moitié de notre budget annuel, même plus que la moitié de notre budget annuel. Puis on parle de tous nos programmes, l'entretien, tout ça. Puis nos subventions. Notre budget, d'habitude, est d'environ dans les 100 000 pour l'entretien puis mon salaire. Fait que c'est sûr que 150 000, ça pourrait fermer le sentier à long terme. Mm-hmm. J'ai une couple de questions à propos du rapport, si on peut.
Ben, c'est public, je pense qu'on
Oui.
peut. Écoute, là, Oui, ça
Okay. Well, wait, wait. I was following the YouTube on the way here, so I could stay up to 2. Sorry, I'm a little bit late. We had some traffic and some construction, which you probably know more than most people. So yeah, my name's Eric Collard. I'm the executive director of the trail. We worked with Monsieur Leroux to, knowing full well that as the bill got higher and higher, there's no way we can pay, but at least we were trying to, since it was considered an emergency, we tried to be a good citizen and work with the township and the engineers to get the work done. I have a few questions. One of them is with respect to we all know there's a fiber optic that runs underneath the trail, underneath the former rail bed. How much of that, or is there a percentage of the costs that are associated with that? Can you break down a little bit of the construction costs of the whatever $140 odd dollars? And is there is there kind of a premium that we almost paid because of the fiber optic? And we've been told by multiple folks that it does create a bit of a cost, like an extra cost expenditure. I just want to know if there's a percentage that you can, and I know I'm putting you a little bit on the spot. It's just that we don't actually get any revenues from that, and it's just the costing. So we're trying to see what we can do on that.
In this case, there was likely a limited impact. I know at the beginning the fiber optic lines were actually hydrovac, so there was a cost with that. Eric could maybe pull out the numbers afterwards for that. But as far as the total cost, it would be a very small percentage, and what we did was avoid the fiber optic line, so there probably wasn't a lot of cost there, other than the hydrovacing. So maybe $3,000 or $4,000, I would estimate.
I think there's probably less than 2,000 in HVAC truck. Plus, we would have to contact the contractor to see how much he put in, because it was a lump sum contract that was required. So how much would he have put in there? If we pass the pictures after, you'll see he built a structure around it just to protect it, just to make sure, but I can't say that was the major cost in there. You're likely less than, well, your 5,000 would possibly be close to this. But, yeah. It would be, well, probably a discussion with Lumen at the same time. If you're renting out that corridor, I think you should include the cost to them.
Mm-hmm.
They're making millions out of it, I think, so it might be
And again, there's no special consideration, like for, because I know obviously, yeah, you have to HVAC some of these things, but like, did you have to take a little bit longer to do some of the work, or take different angles going in, or was it just the HVAC portion?
It's majorly the HVAC, because the culverts were 2 sections of 12 meters, and the fiber optics were dead center to it.
Okay.
So we were able just to go and connect right underneath, and it went pretty good. I can't say that we lost lots of time for that. They built a wooden structure around it, so like I said, nothing major, they had to do it, but we would have to talk to the contractor to see how much he would have put in his cost to build that in. So,
one more, and again, I'm not an engineer, I don't have one of those lovely pinky rings, but the work was done in February 2021, if I'm not mistaken, or 23. And how come we're seeing the report in May 2024? Like, is that a typical timeline for emergency work?
emergency, well, when we did it by,
So the emergency work allows you to go ahead with the process basically before the report even starts. So
Yeah.
the work was actually completed before we started our report, other than the limited amount of information we needed to do to properly size the culvert. So it was properly sized, and then the work was started, and then we proceed with the report. And the normal timeline for a report is 12 to 18 months afterwards. So we're in the correct time frame for presenting the report now.
Okay.
C'est tout?
C'est tout.
Okay.
OK.
Yes, thank you again. So I just want to say it's been maybe 2 years that the ownership has been transferred to a nonprofit organization, taking over from the United Counties, and they were very happy that we do so. And why we have a DG, Eric in this case, is because we actually are building this foundation of having recurring revenues, and most of our budget right now is a lot of subsidies that he did get, and we have projects. So in Alfred, we've been building structures. There are some pavilions. That's an example, but there are some as much in Augsbury East up to Clarence Rockland. So our next biggest project is just on the verge of being accepted, is the a rebuilding of the La Gare de Bourget, and there's going to be it's going to be an imitation of what's in La Belle and the Laurentians there, a bistro, a bike shop, this and that, meant for tourism and so on. So there is a lot of good things going on that is going to be profitable for the communities, health-wise, tourism-wise, and recreational-wise. So just hope there's not too many of these these infrastructure, and it's not the fault of everyone. It's the nature over time. It's just to say that there's really good things coming up, and we've been building up that base of financial revenues, and it's just at the moment there's really no capitals to support it, and so.
Oui, yes.
If I may add one thing with regard to costs.
Yeah.
So the Drainage Act is fairly clear about who pays and why, and it's the one authority, and that would be the one authority whether it was done under a major improvement or the minor improvement process. But with regard to it being a trail authority, it's kind of a unique situation. We do believe that it should be supported by either the municipality or even more so by the county in this case. We couldn't assess them directly. But we have nothing against either the county or the municipality paying a portion of the trail authority's bill. It just has to be done outside of the Drainage Act.
Okay. I think it's something to consider here. I know, like, if you want to break it down per kilometer of how much each municipality has within that trail, maybe that could be the cost sharing. And I don't know. Like I said, we're going to have to figure that out here. I think we're going to have a good conversation with Eric here, and he'll guide us through the process here. We're not in the business of trying to close good things down. You know,
Yeah.
I know I'm not. That's not our intention here, and not from my standpoint. So we will find a way to make it work. But like I said, that's something that I think we have to have internal discussions before we come up with any type of formula that works.
Yeah.
Because again, we're finding this out now, so I think we just need to know how we're going to be able to go forward with this.
Thank
Questions
you.
or comments?
So right now the bill's about 160,000. Has any of this been paid? Has the contractor been paid yet?
It's paid by the township.
So the township has covered that so far.
Yeah, the township supports.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's what is in the account right now for this specific
Mhm.
job.
Okay. And as far as the fiber optics go, it's a good question. Do you have any revenue from that fiber optic cable?
Yeah, we've done some research on that.
Yeah.
Like first, when our initial research was with the United Counties and VRL, and they said there was absolutely nothing. They didn't know about anything. Eventually, we reached out. We found a company in Oklahoma City, and it was in the States. It's a big corporation, and they've expressed it's a major trunk of fiber optic in North America. So then we kept on saying, well, we eventually found out someone leaked a report to us. There was a 25-year agreement with the CP, and that agreement is near ending. So we are trying to pursue and have engaged some conversations with the Lumens. That's the company. And so we do have a point of contact now. It's very premature, but they are aware that this contract is over. And right now CP is saying that they own all the mining rights and all the underground. So then the underground doesn't include culverts. So there's all these different parameters that are floating right now, but we're definitely trying to pursue an agreement with Lumen. But just to say, thank you for your consideration. This is like a big park. It's a linear park. It's a 700-acre linear park. It's pretty cheap to maintain for that much land, but it's still on a limited budget. So
Juste de
yes.
curiosité, quand tu casses ça en pourcentage, là, comme la nation appartient combien de pourcentage? Là?
J'ai pas les chiffres avec moi, là, mais je pense que vous avez 14 km des 72, quelque chose comme une douzaine
Ouais.
de kilomètres. J'ai un tableau chez nous qui dit chaque municipalité ont combien de kilomètres, là, mais vous êtes, je sais que vous n'avez pas un pavillon, mais vous avez une bonne partie sentier.
Je pense que c'est peut-être même la plus longue. Hein?
Ouais, c'est ça.
C'est entre Clarence Rockland
ouais,
et la Nation.
Ouais.
OK, c'est bon à savoir. En tout cas, comme j'ai dit, on a des discussions à l'interne à avoir là, pour voir c'est qui va payer pour ça, cette bill-là. Là. Écoute, là, je vais me répéter en français, on n'est pas en business pour fermer des sentiers et des choses comme ça, mais au bout de ligne, faut que quelqu'un paye ces billes-là. Puis,
Ouais. Merci beaucoup pour...
écoute, là, je pense que moi, j'ai des discussions à avoir au Comté du
Oui.
aussi. Je pense que c'est plus ça qui devrait être entré en jeu là, à ce moment-ci. Là.
Vous pouvez nous rejoindre aussi, moi ou Eric. On a
Ouais.
l'information supplémentaire pour...
Oui, je pense que ça va
soutenir.
peut-être prendre une présentation aux Comtés unis pour expliquer un peu la situation à ce moment-là. Fait que,
Puis on revient sous peu pour faire notre rapport annuel
Ouais.
en juin.
excellent.
Merci encore
D'autres
tout le
questions,
monde.
commentaires?
Juste une question de ma part, and I'll ask it in English. Is there precedent somewhere where something like this would have happened before, where the cost, for example, of a drain would have to be supported by an organization? It's one thing when we go to a homeowner or a landowner per se, but for us to be billing an organization like this, are we aware if this has happened in the
Yeah,
past and how it was handled?
It's probably,
just
they probably socialize the cost there, but again, that would be someone like yourself that plays in that type. Like, has it ever been a case like similar to this where you've actually taken a nonprofit and have forced them to pay? Is there, has that ever been the case?
I mean, the act is clear, even though, like, churches can't be assessed under the act, that the churches are actually still assessed for their contribution to drainage. It's not usually this significant of a contribution that occurs. Other things like school boards and stuff that wouldn't be assessed can be assessed under the act. It's fairly unique in eastern Ontario, I would say, where these rails are being turned over to recreational paths. I do see it coming for the future for very many concerns across all of them. Many of the trail authorities are getting into agreements that they may not understand the full implications of what they could be assessed for under the Drainage Act, but I wouldn't say that it's happened yet.
Right.
So this is one of the first ones, and there's probably limited precedence for how that happens.
Okay.
The act is still fairly clear about who gets assessed and why, but like I said, we do think that however that trail authority gets supported in general, that those support organizations or municipalities or whatever should be
Right,
paying
I
a portion
almost
of the
look at it
cost.
like a county road, right? If it
Yep.
crosses multiple municipalities, at that point, it's the county's responsibility. I would almost look at it like very similar to that. I mean, it's not quite a road, but it goes through multiple municipalities, and at that point, maybe we can bump up the cost.
Yeah, it
to
is
them.
fairly unique, but it's definitely coming for the future because there's
Right.
a lot of these rails that are being turned into other things. Snowmobile associations have been picking up rail, and trail authorities and recreational paths, walking paths. There's many things that these rails are being converted to, but there's still
Right.
obligations under the Drainage Act.
I know, and just to comment on that, in in the province of Quebec, they're very proactive with this, and they're trying to take advantage of taking rail over to make linear parks for multi-segment activities. And this same corridor here in our neighboring county in Quebec, Comté d'Argenteuil, I think how many kilometers they just took over from us to Rigaud? 14. 14, and they've got like 2 million?
2.1 million.
Yeah, so then they would have no problem in
Right.
paying such infrastructure.
Wow.
They can pave it all the way. So,
Again, any other questions or comments?
So you made mention of conversations at Prescott Russell. Are we gonna have to pass a motion for you to
Yeah, again,
approach, or is that just
that's-
gonna be
I
straight
think now that
conversation?
we're gonna internalize this information and kind of figure out how we're gonna go, and I think the clerk and the CAO are gonna come up with some ideas.
Thank you.
What I can propose for now is I was considering just reading the provisional bylaw next week on the 3rd of June to let everyone just kind of absorb the information. So at the next meeting next week, we can adopt provisionally the bylaw to receive the report. And then at the same time, we can maybe do a discussion at that point if you want to have an official conversation with the United Counties to cover the cost or to help support the recreational trail.
Yeah, I think we need a little bit of time. I need to bring that up there, and it needs to become a priority.
But definitely the first step would be to read the provisional bylaw. So I think that will be done on the 3rd of June unless there's une contrainte. Là.
No, the work's done. It's just now who's gonna pay the bill. That's the important thing, so. Okay.
Merci
Merci.
beaucoup.
Thank you very much.
Merci. Alors, we're going to adopt the confirming bylaw for the meeting. Be it resolved that bylaw number 85, 2024, to confirm the proceedings of council at its special meeting of May 27th, 2024, be read and adopted in first, second, and third reading. Proposed by Madame Drolet and Monsieur Boisvenu.
Those d'accord? Okay, adopted.
And lastly, be it resolved that the present meeting be adjourned at 3:39. Proposed by
Mr. Lalonde and Mr. Mayville.